Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. Today is Wednesday, June the 24th, and it is 12:21 noontime. We're not going to get a sound saying this morning. Actually, I'm just going to read a few verses from Leviticus 17. From Leviticus 27 to Leviticus 31 will be our opening for today. Okay, I wrote this down 12:46 midnight, Thursday, June 18th, 2020. Okay, and the first verse is yellow for family, and it says, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them." Okay, so in this verse we do understand that God created the male first and then the female second. Okay, Genesis 1:28, and God blessed them. And God said unto them, be fruitful, and these words, be fruitful, is all uppercase letterings. Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. That is our love for commandments. I'll repeat the commandment. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. Blue, this is a split verse and it has a blue part, which is for your salvation. And it says, and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowls of the air and over every, there's that word I've been using a lot lately, every living thing that moveth upon the earth. Okay, that goes to show you that he made every living, breathing thing upon the earth. Okay, 29. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. Okay? Genesis 1:30. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the earth, of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. Verse 31 says, and God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning was the sixth day. We're jumping to another chapter, and we're just going to read that one verse of chapter 2 of Genesis, verse 7. And it says, and the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breatheth into his nostril the breath of life, and man became a living thing. Why did I choose to read this? Because I want the listeners to understand that God values everything he has made. Every image of a man, every nation, he values equally. Okay, and that's the way we must think here on earth, that every being is a valuable being. So any fight for the human kind has to include everybody in that fight. Okay, so as soon as you change the wording that you are currently using, then you will have a supernatural support pouring from every corner of this earth. Because now the fight is a right fight. We're fighting for everyone. Every single soul that is considered a man is included in this fight. Okay? And as soon as you change the wording, then God will give you supporters from every corner of this earth. As long as you do it your way, then the support will never come. As soon as you change that which you are doing, change the way you're doing it, change those that are sponsoring it, then you put God in this equation, and now the fight is on. But as long as you don't include God in your fight and do it your way, you are fighting by yourself. And we need God in every fight on this earth. Every fight, he must be in front of us. Okay? Not behind us, not with us at all. And right now, he is not with this fight at all, because it is worded wrong. Okay? Now, yesterday we started a portion of 1 Kings 22, and we're going to finish it up today. And we stopped at 23. So I will start where I stopped. Okay? In 23, it says, what's going on is that we had these two kings, and one king is wanting to get a piece of land that is in the control or jurisdiction of Syria or Iram. And he has a visiting king who happens to be King Jehoshaphat. And this king has some people outside gathering, calling them his prophets. Well, the visiting king wants to know if there's any among all those prophets that belong to Yahweh. And there is one, but he is not currently among the spectatorship outside. They have to actually go fetch him. And when they go and fetch the servant of God, they try to persuade the servant to speak with the same tongue that they are speaking. And the servant does that which the servant of God would do. He does accordingly to the will of God. So he tells them, whatever God says I should say is what I will say. Okay? So some servants who call themselves prophets, they do their own thing, as those that were on TV the other day. Some servants, if they are servants of God, they will not do it any other way but God's way, period. Because why? We need a victory in this situation. And without God, there is no victory. Okay? So let's begin and see how this turns out. Verse 23 is bound for Satan. Now therefore, behold, the Lord hath put a lion spirit in the mouth of all these thy prophets, and the Lord has spoken evil concerning thee. Okay, so we know now in this particular verse that God is not happy. Okay? And when he is not happy, he does things. And what did he do? He put a lion spirit in the mouth of all the prophets that were sitting outside prophesying a lie. Okay, let's continue. Verse 24 to verse 31 is gold for prophecy. So let me read verse 23 from here. So now the Lord had put a lion spirit in the mouth of all these prophets of yours. They were not his. They were the prophets of the king. His prophet was on the way. Okay? The Lord has decreed disaster for you. So if we continue in this here mindset that is running, it is the engine behind this protesting of this time. If we keep doing it that way, this is what you will receive. If you walk without God, the decree will be disaster unto the protesters. This is why I say to people, if it's not of God, move away from it, because when God does his thing, it's not going to be a situation where you can point your finger at a brother or a sister or any man and say, oh, they did this and they did that. No. When it comes down to it, the only person you're going to be able to look upon is God himself, because it will be divine intervention. Okay, when it is God himself, there is no man that has anything to do with what goes on. It will be solely God. Okay, does that make people think? It should, but it doesn't. Not in this generation. All right, let's continue. 24. But Zedekiah, the son of Shaniah, went near and smote Micaiah on the cheek. Okay, all right. So he just slapped the servant of the Lord. Zedekiah just slapped him. Okay, let's read that again. But Zedekiah, the son of Shaniah, went near and smote Micaiah on the cheek and said, which way went the Spirit of the Lord from me to speak unto thee? Ooh, arrogance. 25. And Micaiah said, behold, you if you notice, there's no blow-by-blow thing here. There's no blow-by-blow going on here. Because two wrongs don't make a right at all. Okay, so Micaiah did not respond by slapping him back. He slapped him with words. Let's hear it. And Micaiah, behold, thou shalt see in that day when thou shalt go into an inner chamber to hide thyself. That's a threat. And Micaiah said, behold, thou shalt see in that day when thou shalt go into an inner chamber to hide thyself. Okay, so you will be hiding soon. This is what he tells Zedekiah. Okay, 26. And the king of Israel said, take Micaiah and carry him back unto Amon, the governor of the city, and to Joash, the king's son. 27. And they say, thus said the king, put this fellow in the prison and feed him with bread of affliction and with the water of affliction until I come back in peace. So he's thinking, because he has jailed the servant of the Lord, that will enable him to return back alive. Wrong, stinking thinking. Let's continue. 28. And Micaiah said, if thou return at all, if you come back at all, he's saying this from his jail cell. And Micaiah said, if thou return at all in peace, and the Lord has not spoken by me, okay, if you come back in one piece and the Lord did not speak by me, okay, and he said, hearken, O people, every one of you. 29. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, went up to Ramoth Gilead. 30. And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, I will disguise myself deception. Apparently, what he has done did not convince him that he will return whole. So he added, dose of deception. Okay? And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, I will disguise myself and enter into the battle, but put on thou on thy robe. And the king of Israel disguised himself and went into the battle. 31. But the king of Cyrus commanded his 32 captains that had rule over his chariots, saying, Fight neither with small nor great, save only with the king of Israel. So he already told his commanding officer that they are not to get in any fight except with the king of Israel. Okay, see, look what happens when God is on your side. Let's read it. Let's read this first, and then we will see how God turns that situation around. 24 to 31 from here. Then Zedekiah, son of Conaniah, went up and slapped Micaiah in the face. Which way did the Spirit from the Lord go when he went from me to speak to you? He asked. Micaiah replied, You will find out on the day you go to hide in an inner room. 26. The king of Israel then ordered, Take Micaiah and send him back to Ammon, the ruler of the city, and to Joash, the son's king. 28. And say, This is what the king said. Put this fellow in prison and give him nothing but bread and water until I return safely. 28. Micaiah declared, If you ever return safely, the Lord has not spoken through me. Then he asked, Mark my word, all you people. Okay. Ahab killed in Ramah Gilead. All right. 29. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, went up to Ramah Gilead. 30. The king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, I will enter the battle in disguise, but you wear your royal robes. So the king of Israel disguised himself and went into battle. 31. Now the king of Aram this is Syria, had ordered his 32 chariot commanders, Do not fight with anyone, small or great, except the king of Israel. That order was already in place. And when they are given an order, they follow that order to the letter. So they could not kill a person unless they were absolutely positively sure that it was the king of Israel. Okay, so let's go to 32 and 33, which is blue for salvation. And it came to pass, when the captain of the chariot saw Jehoshaphat, that they said, Surely it is the king of Israel. And they turned aside to fight against him, and Jehoshaphat cried out. Okay, 33. And it came to pass, when the captain of the chariots perceived that it was not the king of Israel, that they turned back from pursuing him. So once he cried out, he identified himself. And once they discovered that the man they were looking for was not the man they were standing in front of, they turned away from him. All right, let's turn here to 32. That was the Lord's protection, because he was the king that inquired of him. Of course, he's going to cover his back as he covers ours. Okay? 32 and 33. Okay, when the chariots commanders saw Jehoshaphat, they thought, Surely this is the king of Israel. So they returned to attack him. But when Jehoshaphat cried out, 33, the chariot commander saw that he was not the king of Israel and stopped pursuing him. All right, let's go back here to 34 to 38, which is gold for prophecy. And a certain man drew a bow at a vineyard and smote the king of Israel between the joints of the harness, Wherefore he said unto the driver of his chariot, Turn thy hand and carry me out of the host, for I am wounded. 35. And the battle increased that day. So the battle got really bad after he was injured. And the king was stayed up in his chariot against the Syrians, and died at evening. And the blood ran out of the wound into the midst of the chariot. So, a chariot is pretty long, so the blood was running down the width of the chariot. 36. And when a proclamation throughout the host about the going down of the sun, saying, every man to his city and every man to his own country. 37. So the king died and was brought to Samaria, and they buried the king in Samaria. 38. And one washed the chariot in the pool of Samaria, and the dogs licked up his blood, and they washed his armor according unto the word of the Lord which he spoke. Okay, 34 to 38. But someone drew his bow at random and hit the king of Israel between the section of his armor. The king told his chariot driver, Wheel around and get me out of the fighting. I've been wounded. 35. All day long the battle raged, and the king was propped up in his chariot facing the Arameans. The blood from his wound ran onto the floor of the chariot, and that evening he died. 36. According as the sun was setting, a cry spread through the army, every man to his town, everyone to his land. 37. So the king died and was brought to Samaria, and they carried him there. 38. They washed the chariot at a pool in Samaria where the prostitutes bathed, and the dogs licked up his wound as the word of the Lord had declared. Okay, 38, 39 to 42 is silver for history. Now the rest of the acts of Ahab, and all that he did, and the ivory home which he made, and all the cities that he built, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel? 40. So Ahab slept with his father, and Ahaziah his son reigned in his stead. 41. And Jehoshaphat the son of Asa began to reign over Judah in the 4th year of Ahab king of Israel. Jehoshaphat was 35 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 25 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Azubah, the daughter of Shilhi. Okay, let's take it here, 39 to 42. As for the other events of Ahab's reign, including all he did, the palace he built and inlaid with ivory, and the cities he fortified, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings in Israel? 40. Ahab rested with his father, and Ahaziah his son succeeded him as king. Jehoshaphat king of Judah. Okay, 41. Jehoshaphat son of Asa became king of Judah in the 4th year of Ahab king of Israel. 42. Jehoshaphat was 35 years old when he became king. He reigned in Jerusalem 25 years. His mother's name was Azubah, daughter of Shilhi. 43. It's a split verse. We only had 2 split verses in this particular chapter. Bread comes first for discipleship, and I will read that to you. And he walked in all the ways of Asa his father. He turned not aside from it, doing that which was right in the eyes of the Lord. This is why it's important for whatever we do that it be right in the eyes of the Lord. Okay? The brown part of that verse says, nevertheless, the high places were not taken down, for the people offered and burnt incense yet in the high places. Let me read 43 by itself. In everything he in everything. He walked in the ways of his father Asa and did not stray from them. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. The high places, however, were not removed, and the people continued to offer sacrifices and burnt incense there. 44 to 51 again is silver for history. And Jehoshaphat made peace with the king of Israel. 45. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoshaphat, and his might that he showed, and how he warred, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? 46. And the remnants of the Sodomites, which are homosexual gays, which remained in the days of his father Asa, he took out of the land. Amen. 47. There was then no king in Edom, a deputy was king. 48. Jehoshaphat made ships of Tarshish to go to Ophir for gold, but they went not, for the ship was broken of Isaiah Gibber. 49. Then said Ahaziah the son of Ahab unto Jehoshaphat, let my servant go with thy servant in the ship. But Jehoshaphat would not. 50. And Jehoshaphat slept with his father, and was buried with his father in the city of David his father, and Jehoram his son reigned in his stead. 51. Ahaziah the son of Ahab began to reign over Israel in Samaria with 17 years of Jehoshaphat king of Judah, and reigned 2 years over Israel. So let's read 44 to 51. Jehoshaphat was also at peace with the king of Israel. 45. And as for the other events of Jehoshaphat's reign, the things he achieved and his military exploits, are they not written in the book of the annals of the king of Judah? 46. He rid the land of the rest of the male shrine prostitutes who remains there even after the reign of his father Asa. 48. There was then no king in Eden, a deputy ruled. 47. 48. Now Jehoshaphat built a fleet of trading ships to go to Ophir for gold, but they never set sail. They were wrecked in Israel's Gibber. 49. At the time, Ahaziah son of Ahab said to Jehoshaphat, let my men sail with you, with your men, but Jehoshaphat refused. 50. Then Jehoshaphat rested with his father and was buried with them in the city of David his father, and Jeroboam his son succeeded him. 51. Ahaziah king of Israel. Ahaziah son of Ahab became king of Israel in Samaria in the 17th year of Jehoshaphat king of Judah, and he reigned over Israel 2 years. That's all. 2 years. Okay. 52 and 53 is brown for Satan. And he did evil in the sight of the Lord, and walked in the ways of his father, and in the way of his mother, and in the way of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. 52. For he served Belial and worshipped him, and provoked to anger the Lord God of Israel, according to all that his father had done. 52 here. He did evil in the sight of the Lord, because he walked in the ways of his father and mother, and in the ways of Jeroboam son of Nebat, who caused Israel to sin. 53. He served and worshipped Belial, and provoked the Lord, the God of Israel, to anger, just as his father had done. You know, the tree never falls too far from the branch. Okay, so the the point here is that no matter what we're doing here on earth, we must always do it in the way that is pleasing to God. We cannot do it in the way that is pleasing to the world, because when we do it God's way, we receive victory. When we do it our way, destruction is our reward. I also wanted to share something with you that Martin Luther King, our beloved civil rights activist of the 60s, a servant of God indeed, and all he did was done in the sight of God and in the ways of God, and his efforts were rewarded greatly. This is why we as a nation of people are still not drinking out of colors only water fountains and walking on different sides of the street and dealing with all kinds of monstrosity that we were dealing with at the time that Martin Luther King was fighting for equal rights for every individual. Okay, he was saying that there are reasons why people riot, and he is correct in what he says. And this is something that he said that I would like to share with you. Okay? He says, I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. They don't. He says certain conditions continue to exist in our society which must be condemned as vigorously as we condemn riots. Okay? But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. That's what a riot is. The language of the unheard. Okay? And it says, and what is it that America has failed to hear? Let's do more than what Black Lives Matter do or say or communicate with their people. Okay? Because it's a cult, the only words they have for you is Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. You will hear this throughout the whole event. Every now and then someone else will say something different. A false prophet or a false servant will say something different, but it won't sound like a servant of the Lord speaking. Okay? And this is what our Martin Luther King said America has failed to do. Okay? It has failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last few years. Point one. Point two, it has failed to hear that the promise of freedom and justice have not been met. Point two. Point three, and it has failed to hear that large segment of white societies are more concerned about tranquility and status quo, right? Let me read that again. It has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. And this is what we're fighting for. Justice, equality, and humanity for all men. Okay? And more, and so, real sense, our nation's summer. And so, in real life sense, our nation's summers are not caused by our nation's winters of delay. Our nation's summer riots are caused by our nation's winters of delay. How America has delayed to deliver. Okay? And as long as America postpones justice, equality for all men, we stand in the position of having these reoccurrence of violence and riots over and over again. Social justice and progress are the absolute guarantee of riot prevention. Okay? King ends the speech on a note of hope and faith, not just for justice, but also for an achieving to in a way that are non-violent and non-violent and intersectional. Okay, so he prefers that we bring about change through non-violent means. Okay, it is the Lord's way. All right, thank you very much for listening to us here at Spiritual Water, and as always, may the peace of God be upon you. May the protection of God cover thee and all those you love, and may the will of God, whatever the will of God is for your life, come from thee. Until the next time, remember, every life matters. Every life in the eyes of God. Thank you and have a beautiful day.